How exactly does seller financing work? Is it a good idea? And what are the things that you need to be on the lookout for if you decide to use it? So welcome back to my channel. My name is Dominique Higgins. I'm a real estate broker here in Southern California, where I help people develop wealth through real estate. And in today's episode, I really wanted to dive deeper into what is seller financing, how does that process actually work, no matter if you are a first-time home buyer or an investor or a budding developer out there, as well as is it necessarily a good idea, and the different things that you have to be on the lookout for when and if you do decide to go ahead and seller finance property. So with that, let's get right into it. So first, let's make sure we're on the same page as far as what seller financing actually is. So seller financing is kind of what the name implies. That's where the seller or the actual property owner provides the financing for you instead of a bank or other major institution. And the way that this works kind of at a deeper level is you as a buyer put forth some type of down payment. It could be anywhere from 3.5%, it can be up to 10%, whatever amount it is that you and the seller agree to negotiate. And then the remaining difference between your down payment and the ultimate purchase price, that amount is then financed by the seller. And essentially, that means that when you go ahead, you literally sign a mortgage, you sign certain loan documents, those are recorded against the property, and from that moment forward, you actually make payments directly to the seller every single month. Those payments do not go to any bank, any institution, they go directly to the seller, and the property does get transferred into your name. And from that point, once seller financing is put in place and you successfully close on a property, it kind of works the same way that any other loan would. You continue to make your mortgage payments on time to the seller directly. And at the end of a certain set period of time, whether it's 30 years, 20 years, whatever you again agree with the seller, the loan is either fully paid off or you may have to pay what is called a balloon payment, which is a payment that is larger than your average monthly interest payment. So now that we've established how seller financing works, it's a question of, is seller financing a good idea for you? And that question the answer to that question will really depend on what your goals are. So if you're an investor and developer, 100% seller financing is a really good idea. And that's because you're able to get your hands onto properties without having to, again, jump through all the different hoops that are typically required for the average rental property loan or development property loan or so on and so forth. However, if you are a first-time home buyer or someone who's actually looking to occupy that property personally, it can be a good idea because also you don't have to meet all these specific credit requirements and rules and DTIs and all that different stuff, so long as you can afford the property. Mostly a seller's gonna go for it. But on the flip side, seller financing does work the same way that any other loan works. And so if you move into the property and at some point you cannot make the payments anymore, or you are extensively late or so on and so forth, by pursuing seller financing, it doesn't necessarily exempt you from getting foreclosed on or the seller coming back and taking that property back. So that's something that is important for you to keep in mind and something you definitely want to consult your own legal, tax, and other professionals in terms of deciding for yourself whether that is a good idea for you. One other thing that I want to touch on too is whether seller financing is a good idea is also highly dependent on how you actually structure that deal. So if you structure the deal where your interest payments, I don't know why you would do this, but if your interest payments are like $10,000 a month and it's due in 2 years and you have to and if you don't pay, and you have to pay a balloon payment of like $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 at the end of that, that might not necessarily be a good idea. But on the flip side, if you structure the deal to be, hey, I'm going to provide you 5% in interest every single month, amortized over 30 years, and then in 10 years, I'll do a balloon payment of some certain amount that's manageable, I could easily refinance or sell and get it that amount, then absolutely seller financing can be a good idea. So it's really, the devil is in the details when it comes to seller financing and how you actually structure. That will determine whether it's a good idea or not. And so typically when structuring seller financing, the biggest things you want to keep in mind is the percentage of the down payment that you want to put down. Of course, buyers want to put down the lowest amount, sellers want you to put up the highest amount. So you're going going to want to come to a meeting in the middle that works and is to the advantage of both parties, and also a down payment that actually covers the cost that a seller will incur in order to actually sell the property to you. That's one of the biggest mistakes that I see in how seller financing deals are structured, or people are like, oh, I want to put like 0% down, and it's like, well, then the seller has to come out of pocket in order to sell you the property. Like, no one wants to pay to give away their property. That doesn't make any sense. Another key thing when structuring a seller financing deal is the actual time of that actual loan. So what's really cool and why I love seller financing is it's really whatever you and the seller decide. It can be 5 years, it can be the loan is due in 5 years, it can be 10 years, it can be 20 years. You really have a lot of flexibility there. Now, the third major component when it comes to structuring a seller financing deal is the actual interest rate that you offer to provide to the seller themselves. Now, I have seen so many gurus out there that are like, hey, you can offer to pay the seller like 1% interest and they'll take it, and it's like they'll be happy to take that deal. No, they will not. Like, you heard it from me first. No seller is going to seller finance at 1% interest. That just does not make any sense. So typically you want the interest rate to be comparable or something close to what is already out there. Of course, if you want to give yourself a little discount in exchange for putting up a higher down payment, you certainly can. But honestly, it can range, a good range is anywhere between 5% and up from there. So again, all depending on the size of the deal, and always consult your own professional, legal, tax, finance professionals to get the best idea in terms of where you should be. There are 3 main caveats that you have to be on the lookout for when deciding to pursue potentially seller financing. So the first one is seller financing, for the most part, cannot be combined with FHA conventional or a VA loan. It's the craziest thing. I honestly don't know why, but with a lot of the different underwriting requirements that lenders have out there, they actually just disallow it. And not only that, but as a second caveat, a lot of the other kind of portfolio lenders that are out there, or lenders that focus on working with rental property or development properties or vacant land, a lot of them are actually adjusting their own underwriting requirements to meet the FHA conventional and VA standards, meaning that they also limit the ability for someone to combine let's say a 90% bank statement loan or a self-employed loan or other different types of special loan products with seller financing, which to me is honestly the craziest thing, because again, seller financing is such a great product or such a great way for an investor or a developer to get into a property and to really make up that difference. So that's something also that you'll have to be on the lookout for if you are planning to pursue seller financing. It's really an instance where it's all or nothing. You either can't use it at all, or you have to use it for the entire purchase of a property, and you can't combine it with any other type of financing that is out there. With that, we'll go ahead and close out this video. I hope it was helpful for you. Please let me know it down in the comments below. And if you have any additional questions when it comes to seller financing, also drop them down below and I will make sure to answer them, because hey, I am here to answer your questions about real estate so you can develop wealth through it. So with that, I'll see you on the next video.